This is episode 3 of my 12 episode series on how to run a sub 30 hour 100 mile race. And I share with you all my insights and lessons learned. I've successfully completed 2 100 milers and relatively new to this, so I'm figuring this out for myself. But I also do a lot of research, so that's been very helpful. But I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I'm going to try and give you insights to help you avoid some of those mistakes. So this week we're looking at the choice of race, and I would say after the motivation, the why, I would say choice of race is extremely important for your first attempt at a successful completion. When you're looking at that 100 miler, I would say you should do a 100 miler that is relatively easier to complete. And so you want to stack the odds in your favor. And so that choice is very important there. And I'm not saying 100 miler is easy, by no means. I don't care what course you do, flat, mountainous, technical, they're all tough. And they all have their own little quirks that you're going to be aware of. So, but they are relatively easier runs. So anyway, so why do I say that? I'm saying the stakes are so high. You put a lot of people through, quite a lot of hardship in terms of supporting you while you're training, time away from family, time away from doing lots of other things, and then traipsing across the country with a support group. That's expensive. Even if you're in your own backyard, it can still add up in terms of cost and time. So there's a lot at stake there. And there's nothing like not finishing a DNF in a 100 miler. I mean, you put in, close to, give or take, 6 months of training. And then you gotta wait another 9 months or so before you tackle it again. So, my first 100 mile marathon was not successful. And again, I would say a lot of that had to do with the choice I made. We ran the Coldwater Rumble out in the Australian Mountains in Arizona. And, it looked like a great course according to the elevation. The track looked decent. But it got into the race and reality hit me right in the face. It started a little over an hour before sunrise. It was pitch dark. You had to run with your headlamps on a narrow mountainous trail for the first hour. And I fell twice. I mean, they do describe that parts of the track are kind of jagged, and they're not kidding there. And coming out of that, you go into a few gullies that have loose sand, and it's not just 100 meters, 150 meters. It goes on for a little while. Needless to say, I didn't complete that. I finished 2 loops, 20-mile loops, 40 miles, and I was completely spent. I just didn't have anything left in me. And part of that was going out too fast, falling, a lot of reasons why. The loop was probably too big. So almost learned my lesson there, but the next year I looked at running the Frozen H3, which is Frozen Hellhole 100 in South Carolina. I should have known when I saw the Hellhole in the title. It was probably going to be hell. So, anyway, I was about to sign up for that. And just before signing, I did some final checking, and I came across a great blog. Female runner had attempted twice, succeeded in the second time she ran it. But her description, very detailed about what she went through. The course runs partially through some of the swamps in South Carolina. And when the water's high during rainy periods, which is kind of the time of year they run this race, they have to span wooden planks over parts of the course just so that you're not in the water the whole time. But as she described it, there was very little chance you were going to come out of each 16-mile loop without having your feet wet. So you're constantly changing equipment, wet feet, and you're looking at 6+ loops. So you don't have enough shoes to do that. Anyway, and the worst thing for me, I guess, was they had moccasin snakes in the swamp. Now, they probably wouldn't bother you, but just the thought of running at night in the pitch dark with a flashlight and knowing the moccasins are all around you, it's hard enough to run 100. But wet feet, snakes, not the best for your first time running 100 successfully. So anyway, we changed and went to a small loop race out in Arizona. I'll talk about that in a second. So what I would recommend is find races or a race that has a shorter loop, maybe 8 miles or less, preferably less, where your support is always very close to you. And you need that for many reasons, medical reasons, injuries, clothing changes, nourishment, proper hydration, adjustments, right? So it helps a lot there. And so choose a short loop, do some research, and find races that are that have very high completion rates. And you want that odd stacked in your favor, no doubt. I mean, look over the last 3 to 5 years, do the averages, figure out what that ratio is, and compare, right? So, there are a lot of people who want to be badass when they run 100 and be able to say that you're doing a badass 100. But it's nothing more embarrassing than saying you're a badass and not making it. And the likelihood is strong you won't if you pick the wrong race. So do your research, find the race that is going to help you the most. There are over 150 100-mile races in the U.S. alone. So, there's something for everybody. So I would definitely say that the short loop is a lot easier psychologically as well. And especially when you get into the late night run where, everybody seems to disappear and, it's dark and you don't know where you are. It plays tricks on your mind. With the short loops, most times, most of that track is lit somewhat. And as you go, you have a very good sense of what's coming up. You know your markers. You don't really have to think that much. And that's a big one. You want to be an automatic. If you're thinking too much, you're on manual, and you're expending a lot of your psychological energy. And you don't want to do that. So automatic is good. The known factors are key, and there's a lot to be said about having that encouragement very often of your support group. So definitely a short loop in my mind. Now, there is a con or a negative, a major negative for some people when it comes to running on a short loop. And that really is the lure, the attraction of stopping, especially during the nighttime when, you go into that cozy warm tent, they got heaters, hot chocolate, and it becomes so easy to just stay there another 10 minutes, 15, and so forth. For me, and the way that I dealt with that on short loop was basically, don't stop long. Have a purpose. Don't think about the comforts. Just know your 100 is going to be difficult from start to end, and the sooner you get it done, the better. So, my stops are usually anywhere from, 5 to 10 minutes, and you don't tend to start getting that feeling of wanting to stay because you're so preoccupied with getting out of the gate. And so that's critical. You can overcome that negative, but it is something you should be aware of. A lot of people feel that short loops are boring, and why would I want to run around a 2-mile loop or 1-mile loop forever for hours and hours? But I can tell you right now, in the latter stage of the run, those are very welcome, and I didn't think they would be originally running my races, but they ended up being fantastic. So I would give it a try. Don't knock it, and it does help you a lot in terms of completion. So my two recommendations for the shorter loop are the Across the Years race out in Phoenix, and that's a wonderful race, very well supported, great completion rate. Temperatures are decent, a little cold at night. 2.37 mile loop, very doable. And my second race I recommend is the Jackpot's short loop race out in Las Vegas. And of course, there's the added benefit of being in Las Vegas. But that's an ultra short race, 1.17 miles for each loop. But support is tremendous, and that's where they usually hold the USATF national championships at that race. So, it's pretty cool. You see some of the best 100 milers in the world running at that race, and you get to join them. And you might be competitive in your age group as you get older. Anyway, those are my thoughts on race choice, and it's a very important choice. So make that choice after some research and know what's going to work for you. That's critical. So happy running, and please subscribe so you can follow the rest of the episodes 4 through 12, and we'll see you on the road.